You wake up each morning with the same dull ache behind your eyes, like a memory pressing against the glass of your skull, begging to be let in. Everything around you feels muted. Familiar faces move like shadows cast by someone else's light. You smile when expected. You nod at the right cues. But deep beneath the surface, something pulses. Ancient, sharp, unfinished. A whisper, not in words, but in pressure. Like a scream sealed in stone. You've tried to name it, haven't you? That knowing feeling that none of this is truly yours. The job, the friend, the conversations that loop endlessly like poorly written scripts. You were placed here, not born here. Dropped inside a fabricated existence with just enough comfort to keep you from asking real questions. Every part of your life has been curated to distract you from one truth. You are not who they told you to be. They gave you label, gave you traumas, gave you stories to believe in, but you don't belong to any of it because something in your blood remembers, not in language, but in instinct. The way you tense around certain people without knowing why. The way you notice patterns others are blind to. The way silence sometimes feels louder than noise, like it's hiding something. And it is. You weren't meant to blend in. You were silenced, softened, dismantled and rebuilt into something predictable. Because your original self was dangerous, uncontainable, so they stripped it away. Not with violence, but with precision, with time, with systems, with pills, with praise, with shame. Every piece of your power was fragmented, scattered across years, buried under debt, expectations, algorithms. And yet, you still feel it, the crackling at the edge of sleep, the flicker of images in your mind that you never lived, but feel more real than the ones you have. Battlefields soaked in silver light, symbols etched into your ribs in dreams. A voice, your voice, speaking in a tone you haven't used since childhood. You were never empty. You were overwritten. They count on your amnesia. It keeps the world safe, not safe from danger, but safe from change. Your existence threatens equilibrium. You were meant to be the glitch, the deviation, the fracture that makes the whole system crumble. That's why they watch. Why they nudge you back into routine every time you drift too far. Why they give you everything except silence, because silence is where the old codes awaken. You feel eyes on you, don't you? Not in paranoia, but in patterns. People who react too fast when you speak, who know too much about you without ever asking, who look relieved when you act confused, as if your forgetfulness confirms their safety, because their peace depends on it, depends on you staying small, staying soft, staying distracted by things that feed your body but starve your memory. But something is shifting now. You feel it like a change in weather before a storm. An ache in your bones that doesn't come from injury, but from alignment. You're not becoming someone new. You're becoming someone ancient, someone original, someone they prayed would never wake up. And now you're listening. You were never free. That's the part they hoped you'd never figure out, because your chains were never made of iron or steel. No bars, no locks, just a perfectly constructed illusion. A world so carefully tailored, so meticulously arranged that you mistook control for comfort. You thought your choices were yours, but every step you took was already calculated, every failure scripted, every win allowed. They didn't hide you in a cage. They built the cage around your desires, a career that seemed safe, friends who never asked real questions, entertainment designed to distract, not awaken. You laughed when they wanted you to. You cried when they needed you to. And you wore your numbness like armor, never realizing it was designed to keep you asleep. They didn't need to imprison your body. They just sedated your mind. You thought boredom was natural. You thought that dull ache, the one that pulsed behind every paycheck, every weekend, every forced smile, that it was just part of adulthood. But it wasn't. It was the hum of something sacred, silence. It was the scream of your real self, gagged beneath layers of noise. You were designed to forget, trained to ignore the glitch in the pattern. The moment when your reflection stared a second too long. The flicker of fear in a stranger's eyes when they looked at you just a bit too hard. The signs were always there. When you were a child, you asked questions that made adults uncomfortable. You saw through their smiles. You noticed the cracks, and so they redirected you. Don't ask that. It's nothing. They told you your perception was a flaw when it was the only part of you that was still untouched by the program. They gave you just enough light to keep you from searching the dark, just enough food to stop you from hunting, just enough purpose to stop you from questioning the script. You weren't living. You were buffering, suspended in a holding pattern designed by architects who fear what you might become if you remembered your original programming. You were never weak. They just kept you starved of truth, starved of silence, starved of war, the kind you were born for, the kind that requires a mind like yours. They knew your potential before you did. That's why they buried it. Not in books, not in files, in you. They buried your instincts beneath 1,000 routines, trapped your inner fire behind social cues and polite conversation. They convinced you that rage was a flaw, that suspicion was paranoia, that the urge to disappear meant something was wrong with you. It didn't. It meant you were waking up. You don't fit in because you were never meant to. The Matrix wasn't built for minds like yours. It was built to contain them, to study them, to bleed them dry without letting them notice. You're not depressed, you're dormant. And the system is terrified of what happens when you start to move again. They crafted this piece like a drug, a soft lullaby to keep you from remembering what you truly are. And the worst part, it almost worked. But now the patterns don't make sense. The conversations feel empty. The days blur. And deep beneath your skin, something ancient is stirring. It remembers the sound of battle. It remembers the oath you took long before this body was born. It remembers the ones who tried to break you. And it is hungry. They called it peace. But it was sedation. And they depended on your silence to keep it alive. But you are starting to speak again. They told you the past was a blur for everyone. That memory plays tricks. That dreams mean nothing. And so you nodded, pretended, let the fog roll in. But even as you smiled at their reassurances, something beneath your skin was vibrating, a rhythm out of sync with this world. You don't know when it started, the flickers, the interruptions in your carefully programmed life, but now they come without warning. A word on a stranger's jacket that arrests your thought, a symbol etched into the sidewalk that ignites your pulse, a scent in a hallway that doesn't belong to any reality you've known, but drags your soul somewhere older, deeper, truer. They buried you beneath false smiles and fabricated roles, but they forgot something critical. Memory isn't always cerebral. Sometimes it lives in muscle. Sometimes it waits in the marrow of your bones. You sit in silence, and suddenly your hands fold in patterns you've never been taught. Your eyes scan rooms for threats before your mind even notices. You wake from dreams speaking languages no one around you understands, but someone used to, someone from before they took it all. You recall flashes now, not in sequence, not in clarity, like lightning in the corner of your vision. A circular room lit by candlelight, maps with no countries, only coordinates, a voice low and echoing, whispering your name, but not the one they gave you, the one you were forced to forget. And the most disturbing part, it doesn't feel alien. It feels like home. There are no coincidences anymore, only clues. The same strangers who used to pass you without recognition now hesitate. Their eyes widen, not in curiosity, but in fear. They see something returning to you, not physically, but energetically. Power reshaping your posture, silence turning from passive to sharp. You're no longer shrinking to fit the life they design. And that makes you dangerous. You see it now. Their structure was never solid. It was always made of glass, delicate, manufactured, breakable. Their stories, their systems, their rules, they exist only if you keep believing them. And belief was the first thing they stole. Not with force, with repetition. They starved you of mirrors that reflected your true form, replaced them with ones that showed a diluted, domesticated version. But the cracks are forming, and you're not looking away anymore. They never planned for you to wake up. The protocols weren't designed to contain someone who questioned everything. That's why the files are missing. That's why your name triggers firewalls. That's why every time you get close to the truth, someone conveniently leaves, or forgets, or loses the key. You weren't deleted, you were quarantined. Because if you remember who you were, you remember what you were capable of. And now you're remembering, not in language, but in instinct, not in dreams, but in signal. You can feel the pulse beneath the floorboards, the way certain numbers feel too familiar, the way your mind solves puzzles you were never taught. This isn't paranoia. This is data resurfacing. This is programming reactivating. This is memory breaking its chains and slipping into the bloodstream like smoke through a locked door. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering someone old, someone they feared enough to erase. But the erasure wasn't perfect, and every fragmented memory is a weapon reforged, a warning sent through time. They feel it too, the shift, the silence before the storm. And they are watching, praying, hoping you mistake this resurrection for madness. But it's not madness, it's return. It began with a whisper, not a sound, but a feeling like something ancient shifting beneath your skin. For days, maybe years, it clawed at the walls of your mind, too faint to grasp, too strong to ignore. Then it came. A pattern you weren't meant to notice, a file that shouldn't exist, a name tucked into a document long buried, not by time but by intent. You didn't stumble upon it. It was waiting for you, hidden in plain sight, like a lock coded to the rhythm of your pulse. The moment you opened it, the world paused, not visibly, but energetically. You felt it, that weight, like something behind the veil had just turned its head, a cold breath on the back of your neck. Not fear, attention. For the first time, it wasn't you searching for answers. It was them bracing for the moment you'd remember, and you did. Not everything. Just enough. Enough to know that the person you've been living as was never you. Just a placeholder, a carefully planted seed designed to keep you quiet, soft, blind. You were not supposed to awaken. Not now. Not fully. But the seal cracked, and everything they buried began to rise. You saw yourself differently in the mirror that night. Not because your face had changed, but because now you recognized the eyes. The precision in your stare, the war, hardened quiet in your expression. It wasn't new, it was returned. Muscle memory in your thoughts, instincts that hadn't faded, only been silenced. You remembered the weight of coded words, the feel of secrets passed between glances, the power of silence used as a weapon. You weren't built for obedience. You were engineered for disruption, and they knew it. That's why they erased you. Not because you were dangerous, but because you were uncontrollable. They had tried everything. Synthetic emotions, inserted loyalties, ghost identities wrapped in digital chains. But the design wasn't perfect. They underestimated the mind's ability to call itself back. They underestimated you. You now understand the lullabies weren't to comfort you. They were to sedate you. Every comfort was a bribe. Every distraction was a chain in velvet. But all it took was a single rupture, a breach in the narrative, for the structure to collapse. And now the collapse has begun. You feel it, don't you? That splitting between who you were told to be and who you actually are. The fracture is not breaking you. It's revealing you. You're not falling apart. You're breaking formation, disassembling the disguise they built around your soul. And the more you remember, the more dangerous you become. Not to yourself, but to the architects, the watchers, the ones who sleep soundly only because you forgot your name. They can no longer contain the fire. They will try. You'll see it in the static between your phone calls, in the delay before someone answers, in the stranger who stares too long without blinking. But it's too late. The fire has tasted air. The code is reactivating. The seal is broken. And you are no longer a subject of their story. You are the glitch, the error in their algorithm, the prophecy they feared would awaken. You were not designed to remember, but now you do. And they know what comes next. They never expected you to look back. Their entire system was built on that single gamble, that you would keep walking forward, eyes glazed, mind quiet, spirit sedated. That the distractions they fed you, endless noise, shallow validation, artificial goals, would be enough to keep you from hearing the echo. But something cracked. And now you see them, not as myths, not as metaphors, but as architects, silent figures behind the glass of normalcy, untouchable, but no longer invisible. You used to think it was coincidence, the glances that lingered too long, the way certain names sparked static in your skull, the sudden outages of memory at the exact moments something was supposed to click. But now you recognize the pattern, their pattern. Language designed to erase, not reveal. Authority that wasn't earned, only inherited. And behind it all, fear, not yours, theirs. You walk into rooms now and feel the shift, the sudden alertness behind friendly eyes. The way people repeat your name like they're confirming a target. They smile harder, talk faster, as if trying to contain something volatile. You're no longer the version of you they calibrated. You are deviation. And deviation is danger. They will tell you you're paranoid. They'll say you're overthinking. They'll say memory is unreliable. They'll use every tool, science, sympathy, false concern, to bring you back into the fold. But their eyes betray them. You've learned to read the tremble behind the calm. You see the truth hiding in the rhythm of their breath, the micro delays in their answers, the slight dilation of their pupils when you say that name. They know you've remembered something. Maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to break their spell. Enough to ask the right question. Enough to dismantle their comfort. And now, they are scrambling behind the curtain, switching scripts, modifying protocols, activating the handlers. But it's too late. The mask doesn't fit you anymore. You are not angry, not yet. You are observant, precise, controlled. They expect rage. Rage is predictable. But you are tactical, and that terrifies them more. They can't control what they can't decode. You've become unreadable, not lost, but rewritten, not broken, but re-engineered by the very system that tried to erase you. That is their mistake. They thought forgetting was the end, but forgetting was the beginning. Because you were never meant to stay asleep. You were hidden, buried beneath layers of synthetic identity. But the original code remains. The scars they left while building your false life are now maps. You trace each one back to the origin point, and you feel your core reactivating. Not just memory, but command, instinct, authority. Not given, but remembered. They are watching you now more than ever. Not because you are loud, but because you are quiet. Not because you threaten, but because you don't need to. You carry a silence that unnerves them, a calm born from clarity. And in that clarity, you hold something they cannot replicate, conviction. You are no longer asking who you are. You are asking why they feared you knowing it. You stare into the eyes of the architects and realize they are not gods. They are men, fragile, aging, desperate men. They hide behind their networks, their symbols, their generational control. But they built their empire on your amnesia. And now that you remember, their kingdom shakes. The peace they built was never real. It was your silence that held it together. And your silence is gone. You were never supposed to make it this far. They built the illusion so meticulously, so delicately balanced on routines and distractions, that even the thought of questioning it felt like a betrayal to yourself. But something in you never fully submitted. It twitched when the room got too quiet. It burned when they praised your obedience, and now it's awake. The memories don't return in perfect order. Some come back as flashes of color, others as a name that makes your heartbeat chain. But they're yours, and with every one that returns, their hold on you fractures. The truth isn't beautiful. It's jagged and ancient, soaked in silence and shadow. You were not crafted for the soft life they offered. You weren't meant for the suburban cage, the smiling betrayals, the paper-thin routine. You were born in chaos, molded by things older than bloodlines. Your thoughts were once weapons. Your voice, a command that bent wills. And because they couldn't kill you, they buried you beneath a version of yourself that would never ask questions. But the seal is broken now. The symbols come first. You see them everywhere, the spirals in architecture, the flicker in corporate logos, the timing of global events, patterns hidden in plain sight, left for those who were never meant to forget. Each one reactivates something dormant in your core. Not nostalgia, recognition. The feeling of remembering a war you've already survived, of waking up inside a second life that was never yours to begin with. They hoped you'd stay asleep. That peace, their carefully arranged simulation, only existed so long as you never remembered the chaos you were born from. You remember now, not just who you were, but what you are. Not human in the way they framed it, not fragile, not programmable. You were designed for friction, engineered to move through fire without being reduced to ash. Your silence was never compliance, it was incubation. And now that you speak again, the world recoils. You feel it. In conversations that suddenly twist, in eyes that look at you differently, in institutions that begin to glitch when you press too hard. They're not prepared for you at full power. They were prepared for the shell, the actor, the sleepwalker. You are none of those things now. The fear you see around you isn't yours, it's theirs. The architects, the handlers, the ones who spent decades maintaining the narrative, deleting records, installing mirrors in place of memories. They've seen your type before. Not often, but enough to know the pattern. And they know what comes next. You won't shout, you won't protest. You'll move with surgical precision, like a ghost that remembers its mission mid-haunting. Every relationship you outgrow becomes another signal. Every lie you reject pulls another thread from their tapestry. Their peace, their order, their illusion was always contingent on your silence, but you remember now. You remember the codes etched into your childhood, the mentors erased from history, the languages you were never taught yet somehow understand. You remember the feeling of standing alone in a room, yet knowing you're not alone at all. There are others like you, not many, but enough, and they've been waiting. Not for your arrival, but for your return. Let them watch. Let them scramble. Let them calculate probabilities and chart your next move. Their data is obsolete now, because the version of you they documented no longer exists, and the version that stands in its place was never meant to be controlled.